When's the wedding? I asked, smiling like a woman who would been waiting her whole life to ask that question. I had color swatches in my tote, a ribbon tied around a little leather planner, and a phone gallery full of venues my son would pretend to hate and then secretly adore. Sloane placed her lat down so softly I could hear the saucer kiss the plate. We got married yesterday, she said. Yesterday. My son, even, didn't look at me. He watched a man at the counter struggle with the card reader like it was the most fascinating movie on earth. The little bell above the door chimed. Someone laughed outside. My heart did that strange hollow drum roll it only does before bad news starts speaking with your family's voice. Yesterday? I repeated. I kept my tone level, the way you do when a hurricane has the manners to knock before bursting in. Sloane's smile didn't move. Her eyes are the calm kind that make you wonder what kind of storm they trained in. Courthouse, she said. Just us. Just us. I looked for the joke. For the hidden camera. For the wink. For my late husband's hand on my shoulder, squeezing twice to tell me I was overreacting. I found none of those things. I found a thin white line of foam drying on the rim of my cappuccino. Even finally met my eyes. He has his father's cheekbones and my stubbornness. Mom, he said, we didn't want the big thing. We wanted to keep it simple. Private. Private, I said, and the word tasted like metal. I dreamed of the public kind of love. The vows under lights. The arm hooked in mine as I walked him down an aisle we chose together because his father wasn't here to do it. The music I would hum for weeks after. I had, in a drawer at home, a white handkerchief embroidered with the date of nothing. When were you going to tell me? I asked. My voice sounded like it had been iron flat. Sloane reached across the table, palm up, like a peace offering. We are telling you now. I didn't take her hand. It hung there for a moment and then folded quietly into her lap. I looked at my son and searched for the boy who used to stand on a stool to reach the kitchen counter, flour on his nose because pancakes were war. I looked for that boy and found a man with a gold band reflecting the cafe's yellow lights. Congratulations, I said. It was the correct word. It came out like a cough. We sat in a moment that did not belong to me, and I did what I always do when the room tilts, I found something to straighten. I adjusted the planner ribbon. I aligned the sugar caddy with the salt. I made order in inches because I just lost miles. Sloane told me they'd signed the license officially this afternoon. That her friend Nina had taken pictures on a phone. That they'd celebrate properly later. Later is a hallway people speak into when they don't want to walk today. There's a thing people say, love is not a show. I know that. But family is a witness, and yesterday had been an empty courtroom. I paid the check. The server said, congratulations, as if she'd been cued. We stepped outside into a sky so blue it felt rude. I hugged my son because his shoulders still fit my arms, married or not. I kissed Sloane's cheek because I was raised to be gracious. And while the world clapped politely, something inside me began to count backwards from 10. I was at 7 when Sloane's phone lit up in her hand with a message that should have been impossible. Phase 8 done? I am not the villain of this story, though it would be easy to make me one. I plan. That's my sin, if you are looking. My friends call me the calendar. Even jokes that I've never met a form I didn't pre-fill. I was the woman who kept track of dentist appointments, oil changes, and the last time the smoke alarm batteries were replaced. When my husband got sick, planning was the rope I braided to pull us through. After he died, it was the raft I built to keep from swimming in place. So when Eve brought Sloane home a year and a half ago, with her careful hair and her quiet smile, I did what I do. I watched. Not suspicious, not mother bear. Just attuned. I wanted to understand the woman who took the seat next to my son and held his hand under the table. Sloane works in marketing. That was the line at first. Then, brand strategy. Then, consulting. I know those can be real jobs. I also know they make a good fork. Her hours were elastic. Her pay, too. 1 month, even covered rent because her client's wire got delayed. Another month, she paid for a weekend getaway with a restaurant bill that could have fed my book club for a week. I filed it under, being young and figuring it out, because God knows I've juggled, too. They fought softly when they did. The kind of argument that sounds like people reading scripts from different places. He wanted routine, a dog, a savings goal. She wanted freedom, travel, a life that looked like mess until the last minute when it fell into place beautifully. Sometimes I admired her confidence. Sometimes it made the skin on my arms feel too tight. And yet, she was kind. She texted me on Mother's Day before even did. She brought lemon bars the way my sister used to make them, the crust too thick and perfect. She sat on my kitchen floor with me one evening while rain hammered the roof and told me about sleeping on friends' couches in college when the rent ran out and how she promised herself never to feel that small again. I believed her. I wanted to. The first real crack came quietly. Even stopped coming to our Sunday dinners. Not always. Just enough that the table learned how to be set for one without crying. Work, he'd say, and I'd nod because the men in my life have always been polite about their distance. Then the holidays were complicated, and the visits soon, and the conversations later. When I asked Sloane, she tilted her head like she was listening to a faraway song. Even's under a lot of pressure, she said. You know how driven he is. I do. I built that engine with carrot cake bribery and chore charts. It runs hot when it's not maintained. I started seeing little things the way you only do when you sense a pattern but can't name it. A new laptop, then another, for project. A credit card in Sloane's name but an alert that landed in Evan's inbox. A package addressed to S. Lane instead of Sloane, which could be typo or camouflage depending on how well you sleep at night. I didn't snoop. I am not a snooper. But people leave their lives out like magazines. If you are paying attention, you can read without opening a thing.
Then came yesterday's confession. Courthouse. Just us. My empty drawer with the handkerchief. The message on Sloane's screen. Phase 1 done? My eyes only caught it because she held the phone loosely, the way confident people do when they've never had anything ripped from their hands. Everything okay? I asked, because we are who we are until we decide we're not. She angled the screen away casually. Spam, she said. I should really change my number. I smiled with all my teeth and none of my trust. When they left, I went home and did what grief taught me. I made tea ritualistically. I laid my planner on the table. I wrote down congratulations, Evan and Sloane, courthouse wedding. Then I drew a little box and did not check it because that task was not mine. I flipped to a clean page. I wrote a word I haven't had to write in years, protect, not revenge. Not yet. Protect is a mother's first language. Protect the boy who thinks privacy is a fence and not a wall. Protect the man who signs things because love is a pen with his name on it. Protect the life we built plank by plank and paid for with bedtime stories and second jobs and 1,000 small, unglamorous yes. I opened my laptop. I typed Sloane's full name into a private browser, like a sinner at confession. A LinkedIn that looked curated. An Instagram with the edges sanded off. A state business registry that showed me a dissolving LLC with a familiar mailing address. The building where Evan's firm rents the 3rd floor. I wrote it down. I didn't draw a box to check next to that one either. Some boxes check themselves if you wait. At midnight, my phone chimed with an email from Evan that was meant to reassure me and only sharpen the outlines of my worry. We'll do a party later, Mom, he wrote. You'll love it. Later. Party. Love. Good words that, in the wrong order, can feel like a polite dismissal. I lay in the dark and counted backwards again. 10, 9, 8. I don't know what happens at 0. I've never needed to find out. Morning arrived mean and bright. I showered like a soldier. I wore navy because navy looks like competence. I packed my tote with a new folder labeled because I am my father's daughter and he believed in clear labels, financials. I told myself I was only going to ask questions, gather information, set expectations. I told myself curiosity is not suspicion until it finds a reason to be. On my doorstep, a small white envelope waited like a shy guest. No return address. Inside, a glossy photo printed from a phone. There stood Sloane in a white jumpsuit, smiling in a hallway I recognized as City Hall. Next to her was a man whose face I did not know. He stood too comfortably close. On the back, a handwritten note in quick, narrow letters. Phase 2, meet at 4. N. I don't believe in omens. I believe in evidence. I put the photo back in the envelope, took a breath, and called a lawyer before I called my son. Banks always feel like libraries where money is the book you're not allowed to touch. I pushed through the sliding doors, smoothed my navy jacket, and caught the glass box office where Evan sat with a woman in a charcoal blazer. Her nameplate read Nora Kemp, Senior Relationship Manager. She had the pleasant, unflappable face of someone who can talk about fees without blinking. A minute later, the man from City Hall stepped in, shook his umbrella off neatly, and walked straight to Nora's door. She stood, opened it, and kissed his cheek. You're early, she said, smiling. Hi, love. He squeezed her shoulder and set a blue folder on the table. Wife, not Sloane, the banker. I stepped to the threshold and rapped the glass with 2 knuckles like a polite storm. Evan looked up, torn between relief and embarrassment. Mom. I'm here to congratulate, I said, keeping my voice Sunday school soft, and to listen so no one has to repeat themselves later. Nora evaluated me in a heartbeat the way good bankers do. You're welcome to sit in if Evan's comfortable, she said. To her credit, she asked him with her eyes first. It's fine, he said. We're just updating things. Of course, Nora said brightly. This is routine when there's a life event. Congratulations, by the way. I'm Nora. This is my husband, Derek. He's a notary and will witness signatures for your beneficiary designations and direct deposit. Derek. Husband. Notary. City Hall. Saturday, before we begin, could I see everyone's business card? Just so I spell names right in my notes. I opened my planner as if I were the world's nicest stenographer. Nora slid a card across. Nora Kemp, First Federal, Senior RM. Derek followed. Derek Kemp, City Clerk's Office, Notarial Services. Evan had no card, just a wedding ring, and the urge to be agreeable. I copied the names. The letter N on Nora's card hooked down in a narrow stroke that looked awfully like the N on the note for my porch. I tucked that away the way you pocket a pebble you're not done with. Nora opened the blue folder. Tabs. Color-coded. My language. First, she said, pay on death pod, designation for your checking and savings. Very normal after marriage. It ensures your spouse can access funds without probate. She turned the form so we could see. In the beneficiary name field, Sloane Lane. My eyes snagged on the spacing. S. Lane. The same awkward split I'd seen on that package weeks ago. A typo you make on purpose. Second, Nora continued, a direct deposit change so your payroll's consolidated to a household operating account will open today. That way you too aren't juggling bills. We'll temporarily route to an existing account under the household umbrella, Northbridge Collective, LLC, and roll to a joint after your marriage certificate clears the state index. There it was, Northbridge, the co-working address, the dissolving LLC. Whose LLC? I asked, smiling like a brochure. Nora didn't flinch. Sloane's. She uses it for consulting revenue. We set up a subledger so household inflows are separated. Very common with creatives. Authorized signers. I asked, pen ready. Nora glanced at the file. Sloane Lane, primary. Evan Lane will be added after today. Evan's last name is Cole, I said, still smiling. He hasn't changed it. Nora paused half a beat. Yes, of course, Cole. My mistake. Any other signers? I asked, because plural questions are how you make people tell the truth in front of a witness. She scanned. N. Halpern is listed as admin for online access. She works with Sloan, internal bookkeeping. Nina. N. Halpern. Admin. So, and on my porch could still be her. Pebble back in pocket. Derek unsnapped a stamp like a magician revealing a dove. We'll also notarize a durable financial power of attorney limited to household accounts, he said, tapping a page. So if one of you is traveling... Evan glanced at Sloane's empty chair. She's on her way, he said. HR wanted me to swing by and... Which HR? I asked lightly. From your firm or from First Federal? From my firm. He looked at Nora for confirmation he didn't need. Nora offered a practice checkle. We liaise with employers all the time to streamline payroll. Totally standard. I set my pen down so it wouldn't shake. We'll need 2 things before Evan signs anything, I said. 1, the marriage record number. Not the selfie, the certificate. 2, a post-nuptial agreement drafted by counsel so that beneficiary and POA changes mirror it. That protects both parties. Derek bristled. Ma'am, with respect, you're not the account holder. With respect, I said, matching his tone with about 3 degrees less heat. I'm the person who will drive my son home if he faints in a pile of irreversible paperwork. Nora folded her hands. Calculating. Courteous. A post-nup can take weeks. These are routine housekeeping items. Then, housekeeping can wait for the certificate to be recorded, I said. Otherwise, you're asking Evan to name a pod beneficiary and route his wages into an LLC he doesn't own based on a marriage the state hasn't indexed yet. Silence, the kind that makes you aware of your own breathing. Evan rubbed his temple like a man trying to iron his brain. Nora, is there a reason the money has to go through Sloan's LLC first? It's temporary, Nora said smoothly. Creative income, household income, 1 bucket less friction. She tapped a line with a glossy nail. We do this all the time with young couples. And Halpern having admin access? I asked. Also routine. She's their bookkeeper, Nora said. My bookkeeper. Evan blinked. Since when do I have a bookkeeper? Right then Sloane slid into the chair beside him. Cheeks pink from the rain. Smile set to everything is fine. Sorry. Traffic. She kissed his temple. Ignoring me the way you ignore a painting you can't take off the wall. Nora brightened. Perfect timing. We were just walking through the forms. Sloane reached for the pen. We can sign the pod now. The direct deposit too. Baby. HR's already queued the change. I tilted my head. Which HR? Nora's or Derek's? Sloane's eyes flicked to Derek. Half a second, barely there. Your HR, of course. Great, I said. Then they can email us from their company domain confirming the change request and attach the marriage certificate number for the file. I'll forward to our attorney, who drafted Evan's estate plan, so the documents match. That way no one has to redo anything later. I smiled like a woman recommending a reliable cater. I did not mention the whiteboard at Northbridge or the way Sloane had said phase 3 to 5 p.m. First Federal, like a scavenger hunt clue. Not yet. Evan looked at Sloane. He looked at Nora. He looked at me. Then he pushed the pen back an inch. Let's wait, he said, voice careful. We'll sign after we send this to Marla. Sloane's smile cooled. We trust Nora, she said, pouring sugar into the banker's first name. This is literally her job. And it's literally Marla's job to keep us from screwing up the order of things, Evan said, surprising even himself. He turned to Nora. Can you print copies of everything for us to take? And please remove any temporary routing to the LLC. We'll use my current account until we have the certificate and a post-nup on file. Nora smoothed a corner of the blue folder. For the first time, the pleasant, never-blinking face blinked. Of course, she said. I'll prep packets. Derek closed his stamp case with a click that sounded like a door deciding something. Sloane stared at me as if she could peel my skin back and rearrange whatever made me this calm. We stood. Nora stepped to her printer. On the counter, the blue folder gaped a little, an unattended mouth. A form slid loose enough to flash receiving account. Northbridge Collective, LLC, 1137. Under authorized online admin, N. Halpern. Under beneficiary, pod, name, S. Lane. I didn't take it. I didn't need to. I'd already taken the picture at Northbridge. I would take another of this, casually, phone angled as if I were checking a text. On cue, my phone actually buzzed. Unknown number. A single line. You don't know me. I'm N. I tried to slow them down. Can we talk alone? The message pinned a location I knew too well. The glove factory building at Northbridge, room 304, in 20 minutes. I excused myself from the bank like a woman who suddenly remembered a roast in the oven. In the parking lot, I texted Marla the screenshot of the message and the pin. Northbridge, room 304, 20 minutes. She called back before the first ring finished. Public place is good, she said. You're not there to accuse. You're there to collect. Ask for screenshots, dates, names, and who benefits. Send me everything as you get it. And grace, don't let anger do the talking. You're winning with paper. I know, I said. Paper and timing. And witnesses, she added. Keep yourself visible. Northbridge smelled like rain and ambition again. Upstairs, room 304's glass door was propped open with a stack of startup magazines. Nina stood inside in a denim jacket, hair in a messy knot, eyes that had practiced not crying. The whiteboard had been swiped clean, but a faint ghost of Phase 2 still hovered like chalk after a storm. You don't know me, she said, almost apologizing. I'm Nina. I left the envelope. I didn't know if you'd think it was creepy or helpful, maybe both. Both, I said. Thank you for choosing helpful anyway. She closed the door gently and turned the lock, but left the blinds open, which I appreciated. I'm not a good person, she said, hands worrying her sleeve seam, but I'm not as bad as I let myself be either. Those are the only kind I've ever met, I said. Start at the first thing you're sure of. Nina took a breath. I met Sloane 2 years ago. She called herself a brand strategist. She was magnetic. She knew how to say the exact sentence that made you feel seen. We freelanced together. She introduced me to Nora, the banker, as the safest pair of hands in the city, and to Derek, Nora's husband at City Hall, as the guy who makes lines shorter. She swiped through her phone and held up a signal chat labeled Phaseboard. 3 names at the top. S. Sloane, Nora K. Nina H. The earliest message was a year old. S. Phase 1 is always the story. Soften family. Isolate the skeptical one. Nora K. Phase 2. Household money flows through something we can audit. Nina H. Phase 3. Titles/beneficiaries were allowed. S. Phase 4. A clean out, a clean break. Nina swiped to last week. S. Mom is the planner. Planner moms need roles. Give her fake roles. Nora K. I'll say the word routine a lot. Nina H. Got the whiteboard room for Tuesday. 3 p.m. That was the day you saw us, Nina said, shame coloring her throat. I tried to slow things, throw sand. The envelope, the note. I thought if you started asking legal words, Evan would pump the brakes. Today, when you said post-nup and index certificate, Nora's face did that little freeze. That meant you hit the right nerves. Who benefits? I asked. First, Sloane, obviously. She routes his payroll through her Northbridge Collective, LLC, to build cash flow on paper. With Nora's household account language, HR changes look normal. Second, Nora gets to count growth and fees bonuses. And she's protected by the plausible story. Third, Derek notarizes and shepherds them through City Hall logistics, so the certificate looks imminent even if it's not recorded yet. And you? I asked. I do the plumbing, she said. Admin access, bookkeeping, the oops typo that keeps Evan dependent on us to fix. I was supposed to schedule Phase 4 tonight, insurance binder meeting, to make Sloan the primary on a temporary policy while they figure out estate updates. She looked sick saying it. It's always the same choreography. Love story, money river, title switch, exit. Sometimes they ghost. Sometimes they stay and keep siphoning. Depends on the mark. My son is not a mark, I said, and it came out softer than I expected. It wasn't a protest. It was a vow. Nina nodded like she'd expected that line. He seems kind. Kind is dangerous. Kind makes you polite in rooms designed to take things from you. She swiped again. Here, today's whiteboard plan. A photo from the hour I watched them. Phase 3 to 5 p.m. First Federal. Pod plus DD. Phase 4 to 7 p.m. Hartford House Insurance, binder. Phase 5 Friday. Title ad, Tesla. Tesla? I asked. Evan's car, she said. Title ad. Easy if one person nods and the other signs without reading because someone says lease paperwork. I forwarded everything to Marla. She replied instantly, do not confront. Freeze his credit tonight. Meet me at 6:30 at my office. Bring Evan. We'll draft a no-commitment letter for bank/insurer to halt changes pending council review. We'll also email Nora's compliance officer and copy her manager. Paper plus witnesses. I looked at Nina. Why switch sides? She bit the inside of her cheek. Because I'm tired. Because my mother is a planner and I haven't called her in 3 months. Because when I saw Derek's hand on Sloane's back in that City Hall picture, I realized they're the married ones in the room. Everyone else is disposable. She swallowed. Because last time the guy had a kid, and I watched his wife sell baby furniture on Facebook Marketplace to make rent after Phase 4, and I told myself it wasn't my fault. It was, I helped. We stood in the small quiet that follows someone telling the truth. What happens if you help me now? I asked. I'll get cut out, she said. They'll say I was unstable overreaching. They'll smear me to cover their tracks. Then try again with the next nice man who just wants to make people comfortable. I can't protect you socially, I said, but I can make sure their paper fails loudly. And if you like, I can hire you legitimately for a month to document everything for my attorney so no one calls you a hysteric without a retainer. Her laugh was a broken thing but real. I'd like to be legitimate. Then send me the originals, I said. Export the chat. Forward emails. Metadata matters. And Nina, turn off disappearing messages. She nodded, already tapping. A shadow moved across the frosted lower panel of the glass door. A red sleeve. A white coat. I didn't need more than that. Nina's phone buzzed. Where are you? Change of plan. Meet at Northbridge, 304, now. Then another message from a different thread under a contact saved as a single letter K. Pull the fire alarm in 10 if they're there. We'll say it was a drill. I looked at the hallway, then at the little metal pull station on the wall by the elevator. Leave, I said. Take the back stairs. Email Marla from a coffee shop 3 blocks away. I'll be noisy enough that no one thinks to look for you. Nina hesitated. Noisy how? I unlocked the door and opened it wide to the corridor, then rolled the whiteboard to the glass, so the ghosted Phase 2 faced the hall like a confession. By doing what I do best, I said, assigning roles. Downstairs, my phone lit with Evan's name and a single line that hit like a siren. Mom, Sloan says Nina is dangerous and lying. Where are you? I answered Evan's text with 3 sentences and a spine. Northbridge lobby. Do not sign anything. 6:30 at Marla's office. Bring your ID. Then I send him the 3 links Marla keeps on speed dial Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, and wrote, "Freeze your credit now." Screenshot each confirmation. I went to the front desk. The receptionist had a neat bun and the posture of someone who knows where every outlet is. "Hi," I said, setting my tote down so my hands could look gentle. "I'm expecting an argument in one of your glass rooms." Someone also texted me they might pull the fire alarm as a distraction. I slid my phone across with the K message. "Could you please ask security to sit nearby, and could you preserve today's camera footage around room 304? Her eyes widened, then squared. "I'll page our building manager," she said, already dialing. "And I'll flag IT to archive that hallway." A sign rolls. "Front desk, witness. Security, frame. IT, memory." I took the couch by the printer again, the place where stories come out face up, and sent Marla a short summary. She replied with something that felt like a hand on my back. "Good. I just emailed First Federal Compliance with a hold request. CC'd Nora's manager and branch director. If Nora tries to process anything, there will be a blinking light on her screen." The elevator dinged. Sloane stepped out in the white coat, blonde hair tucked behind one ear like a bookmark. Derek followed, messenger bag, City Hall smile. They clocked me at the same time. Their smiles didn't change. "Grace," Sloane sang, surprise laced with citrus. "Small world." "Small building," I said. "You left your phases on the glass last time. I thought I'd return the favor." I angled the whiteboard so the ghosted phase two-faced her. Something sleek in her eyes hardened. "Nina called you," she said, as if switchboards are sins. "She's unstable. She's been harassing our vendors and pretending to be our bookkeeper." "Careful," I said, soft as a folded napkin. "You just confirmed bookkeeper in a public lobby." Derek checked his watch like men do when their script changes. "We have a meeting," he said. "City business at 5:30. "Wonderful," I said. "Then you'll appreciate that First Federal Compliance is currently reading an email about beneficiary designations and direct deposit into an LLC Evan doesn't own. They've been asked to hold all changes pending council review." I smiled. Compliance loves council. Sloane's phone vibrated. I didn't have to see the screen to know who it was. She tugged Derek's sleeve. "Let's go upstairs," she said, sugar dropping out of her voice grain by grain. Security arrived, blue jacket, radio, a manager with a lanyard that said Maya. The receptionist briefed them in 3 clean sentences, the way good people carry news. Maya looked at the fire alarm box, then at Sloane's hand hovering in the air like a thought. "Just so you know," Maya said pleasantly, "anyone pulling that alarm without cause will be recorded and fined by the city, and will be preserving footage by request." Derek's smile flattened 1 millimeter. "No one's pulling anything," he said. The elevator dinged again. Evan. Damp hair, eyes darting from me to Sloane to Derek to Maya. He walked like a man entering a room he's not sure he's allowed to be in anymore. "What is happening?" "Life event cleanup," I said. "With witnesses." Sloane recovered her script and placed a perfect hand on his arm. "Baby, Nina's lying to your mother. She's bitter. She tried to hack my accounts last year and—" "Then why," I said mildly, "does your Northbridge Collective, LLC, list this building as its address while its dissolution is pending with the state? Why is N, helper in the admin on Evan's payroll routing? Why is S, Lane, with 2 spaces, typed as the pod beneficiary on forms you were about to sign at the bank?" Evan blinked. 2 spaces. "Typos are a kind of mask," I said. "They hide things in plain sight if the clerk copies instead of reads." Sloane pulled her hand back the way you snatch fingers from a stove. "I don't have to prove anything to your mother," she said to Evan. "We got married. We're consolidating. That's normal. God, this is exactly why we did the courthouse, because every moment becomes a referendum on your independence." Evan swallowed. "We aren't signing anything today," he said. Quiet. Firm. "Not without Marla." For a second, grief made a radiant ghost of his father behind him, nodding. Derek cut in with professional briskness. No problem. Then there's no reason for us to be here. He reached for Sloane's elbow. She didn't move. She stared at me like she was calculating the cost of every one of my bones. Evan, I said, show me your phone. He handed it over wordlessly. Freeze confirmations sat in his notifications. Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. Good boy. One more bubble sat above them. HR portal. Deposit change submitted 3:32 p.m. He saw it as I did. I didn't submit. Of course you did, Sloane said too quickly. We did it together, remember? At lunch. You clicked authorize. We were at lunch with me at 12:15, I said. At 3:32, you were in Nora's fishbowl, and we all agreed not to change anything. Derek stepped half between us, a notary masquerading as a lamppost. Then HR needs to open a ticket, he said. Things happen out of sequence. It's easily fixed. Already opened, I said. Marla CC'd your branch director and compliance, so they can see the timing. If an admin named N. Halpern touched the HR portal, we'll have the IP and the device fingerprint by morning. Sloane's mouth pressed a thin line, pain or fury or both. You are poisoning this, she said to Evan, eyes glossy. You are letting your mother turn our marriage into a courtroom. If you loved me, you'd push back. If you've respected me, he said, surprising himself again, you wouldn't be rushing the money first. We stood in a quiet, so taut it hummed. Behind us, a printer spit out someone else's marketing plan and became a metronome. Maya, the manager, cleared her throat with diplomacy. Folks, if this is a legal dispute, we'd ask you to keep it in the conference room or take it outside. But since there's been a heads up about a potential alarm pull, I'm going to keep an officer on this floor. Cameras are rolling. Of course, I said. We're done here. I turned to Evan. We're going to Marla's. You'll email HR from your personal account, not Sloane's laptop, with a no-commitment letter. No beneficiary deposit, POA, title, or insurance changes without counsel. You'll add the words revocable upon counsel review and freeze pending certificate index. We'll send it to Hartford House Insurance as well. So there's number 7 p.m. binder. Then we'll go home and eat roast and breathe. He nodded like a man being taught how to stand again. He started toward the elevator with me. Sloane didn't follow. She stared at the whiteboard's ghost text like it had betrayed her. Derek leaned in and murmured something only spouses and conspirators say that sounds like later. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. The voice on the other end belonged to a woman who had spent decades teaching her mouth to sound like policy. Mrs. Cole? This is Audra from the city clerk's office. You left a message requesting a marriage record number for Evan Cole and Sloane Lane. Papers rustled. I can't find an application, license, or certificate filed for those names in the past 30 days. My heart didn't jump. It arranged. Could there be a delay? Same-day filings show in the queue, she said. If they were at the courthouse yesterday, they may have posed for pictures, but they did not complete the license application. If they did, it was under different names. Across the lobby, Sloane's phone lit up, and I watched her read a message with her full body, a jolt, a swallow, an edit. Over her shoulder, the screen flashed a single letter K and a line that matched the cadence I'd already learned. K, change of plan. Use the insurance binder to move first premium tonight. We'll say the bank delayed. Evan saw it, too, and for the first time since yesterday, he looked at Sloane like a stranger. Marla's office smelled like coffee and paper, the two things that keep the world from tilting. Evan sat across from her, shoulders squared like a man learning his posture again. We worked the checklist the way nurses work a chart. Read this out loud, Marla said, handing him a one-page, no-commitment letter. Plain language, no adjectives. He read, Effective immediately, I, Evan Cole, do not authorize any changes to beneficiaries direct deposits, titles, powers of attorney, or insurance binders. Any pending or future requests are revoked and void unless sent by me. From this email, with my attorney Marla Dwyer copied and supported by a recorded marriage record number. Freeze pending certificate index. We sent it to First Federal, to HR, and to Hartford House Insurance, CCing generic compliance inboxes and the named people. Nora Kemp, Branch Director, Underwriting at Hartford. Paper, witnesses, timestamps. Marla slipped copies into a red folder. We're not going to the 7 p.m. to fight, she said. We're going to let their script run into a wall. One we placed with compliance 5 minutes ago. On the drive over, Evan squeezed the steering like a nervous promise. What if I've ruined my marriage? If you have one, I said, softer than the sentence sounds. If you have one, it will survive sunlight. Hartford House Insurance occupied a brick corner suite with a fake plant trying its best. The evening agent had the warm, tired look of someone who can explain deductibles in his sleep. Caleb. His nameplate matched his handshake. We got your counsel's email, he said, nodding to Marla. So we are in hold status. He turned to Evan. Our calls are recorded. Okay to proceed? Evan, okay. The door opened behind us. Sloane breezed in, cheeks camera ready. Derek followed, messenger bag, city smile. She took the seat beside Evan without asking if it was empty. Hi. We're here for the binder, she sang. Household policy while we finalize estate updates. She dropped a slim leather wallet on the desk like a magician's flourish. You can use this card for the first premium. Caleb folded his hands, a gesture that says, I will not be rushed for free. Just confirming, he said, reading from his screen. We have a hold due to a counsel letter. That means no changes today. Sloane's smile didn't blink. Oh, we just sent an override note, she said. Our banker is joining to confirm. She should be on. Caleb tapped a button. The conference line chimed and labeled itself with a single initial, K. A voice came on, smooth, precise, made of policy. This is Nora, First Federal. We're authorizing the binder to a household operating account and will submit the direct deposit memo once HR closes. Routine. Caleb glanced at Marla's letter on his screen. Ms. K, he said. Kemp, the voice said. Nora Kemp. There it was. The letter K with a last name attached like a tag on luggage. Marla leaned forward, calm as a chess move. Ms. Kemp, you are on a recorded line. Please note that First Federal Compliance has acknowledged the hold. Any instruction to override would need to come in writing from Mr. Cole himself, copying counsel with a marriage record number. A beat. Paper rustled on Nora's side, the sound of a script thinning. Understood, she said, voice still honeyed. We'll follow up tomorrow. Caleb, you can process just the first premium to keep the quote live. It's not a change. Caleb looked at the screen, then at us, then back at the phone like it had tried to wink. Processing any payment is a change, he said. It binds the policy, and I have a hold. Sloane slid the leather wallet closer. We'll pay from Northbridge Collective, LLC. It's household. Easy. Evan flinched before he caught himself. No, he said. No LLC. Derek cleared his throat with bureaucratic confidence. We can notarize anything that needs. No, you can't, Marla said evenly. Your commission does not turn private schemes into public acts. And you're on a recorded line, Mr. Kemp. Caleb's eyebrows went up just a little. He turned his monitor toward us so we could all see the fields he was required to fill. Marital status, spouse name, certificate hashtag if available, payment source. Each field sat there like a locked door. Ms. Lane, he said to Sloane, can you provide a marriage record number? She blinked once, slow. We signed at City Hall yesterday. The number is in processing. Audra's sentence from the city clerk echoed in my head. They may have posed for pictures. I took out my planner. May we list your legal name for the policy? I asked, and let the question sit in the plural, my favorite trap. Sloane Lane, she said. Just the slightest catch over the second space. Caleb typed, driver's license. Sloane produced it like a trick card. Sloane Lee N. The space had moved. It hadn't disappeared. Caleb compared it to the wallet's card. S. Lane on one. Sloane L. and on another. He didn't frown. He didn't have to. He clicked hold again, an administrative rosary bead. The conference line chimed again, another join. A new voice introduced herself with the delight of a whistleblower who's found a switch. Hi, Caleb. Jeanette from Hartford House Compliance. We received Ms. Dwyer's letter. Proceeding under hold. Ms. Kemp, thank you for joining. Please remain while we log your confirmation. Silence has flavors. This one tasted like a hallway at school before a principal arrives. Understood, Nora said eventually. We'll regroup tomorrow. The line dropped. The room felt bigger. Sloane regrouped fast. She pivoted to Evan, lower, private, practiced sincerity. Baby, we're being humiliated. Your mother is making strangers think we're criminals in a strip mall insurance office. Evan's hands flattened on his knees. 2 maps he'd finally decided to read. We asked for guardrails, he said. You brought a banker, a notary, and an LLC. And you brought your mother, she snapped. She brought daylight, he said. Caleb printed a hold confirmation and slid it across. No binder tonight, he said. No payment. If anyone attempts a card or ACH, our system will reject and flag the account. As if on cue, Sloane's phone buzzed with the exact kind of poetic justice computers love. She glanced, then locked the screen too late for her face to hide the word I read upside down. Declined. Marla stood, gathering her folder. We're done here. Mr. Cole will send the statement of non-authorization to HR and the bank and file complaints with the state banking regulator and city clerk ethics. Ms. Lee and use your real name. You should retain counsel. Derek tried to summon his City Hall voice and got only a man's voice instead. This is blown out of proportion, he said. No one took anything. Attempt matters, Marla said. Paper matters. We stepped into the parking lot air. That thin relief after a storm that didn't quite happen. Evan leaned on the car and let himself shake. You did well, I said. You stayed plural. He almost laughed. How do you know how to do any of this? I kept the lights on, I said. I buried your father with a stack of forms and a pie chart. I know how people do right by paper. I also know how they try not to. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered and got the voice of someone who'd been practicing comm for 20 years. Mrs. Cole? First Federal. I'm Ruth from the office of the Regional Compliance Officer. We've received your counsel's letter and have placed Ms. Kemp on administrative leave pending investigation. We've also flagged and reversed a 3:32 p.m. deposit change submitted from an admin, user N de Halpern, and blocked any routing to Northbridge Collective LLC. We'd like to invite you and Mr. Cole to a recorded interview tomorrow at 9. Happy to, I said. As I hung up, Nina's email landed. A full export of phaseboard, metadata intact. Names, dates, screenshots, the choreography in black and white. Across the lot, Sloane and Derek watched us through the glass. He spoke low. She stared at me with the particular interest predators have when their preferred path closes. They don't quit, they reroute. My phone buzzed once more. A new text from an unknown number, written like a dare. From K. You think you won today. Tomorrow is longer. I replied with the thing I'm best at, an agenda, and hit send to Kay, Nora, Derek, and Sloane in one clean thread. 9 o'clock. First Federal Compliance recorded. 11 o'clock. City Clerk Ethics. 2 o'clock. State Banking Regulator. Bring counsel. Bring the marriage record number. Morning made everything louder. The copier, The coffee, the parts of a story that had been whispered, now sang themselves into microphones. 9 o'clock. First federal compliance recorded. Ruth, the regional compliance officer, ran the room like a metronome. Red light on. Names read into the record. Participants, she said, and the list unscrolled. Evan Cole, Counsel Marla Dwyer, Nora Kemp with her bank lawyer, branch director, risk analyst, me. Not a participant, a witness. Ruth began with clocks. At 3:32 p.m. yesterday, a deposit change was submitted for Mr. Cole, routing wages to Northbridge Collective, LLC. The user on the HR portal was N.Halpern. At 4:05, a pod draft listed S. Lane as beneficiary. At 4:48, a limited POA to household accounts was queued for notarization. She turned the screen. The timestamps lined up like a choreography we hadn't agreed to dance. Ms. Kemp, Ruth said, explain the business purpose for routing a client's payroll into an LLC he does not own. Nora folded her hands. Household convenience, she said, like the words could iron themselves. The spouse's creative entity was temporarily. Spouse, Ruth said without moving a muscle. Please provide a marriage record number. Nora's counsel cleared his throat. The certificate is pending index. Ruth clicked once. City clerk confirms no filing under those names. Alternate names. Silence found a chair. Marla slid the phaseboard export across. Names. Dates. The whiteboard photo with phase 3 to 5 p.m. in block letters. Here are internal messages between S, Nora K, and Nina H, she said. They describe a pipeline, story, Money River, title switch, exit. The risk analyst read. His eyebrows climbed a quiet mountain. Ms. Kemp, he said, you are now on leave. We have initiated a SAR and a SOX review of branch controls. Mr. Cole's accounts are locked from external changes without dual verbal plus written authorization. Counsel copied. The attempted changes have been reversed. Ruth clicked the red light off. Thank you, she said, which meant we have enough. Nora stood slowly. A woman discovering an exit is smaller on the way out. Her lawyer gathered the blue folder the way people gather sails when the wind turns. Same table shape, different seal on the wall. Audra led with the license ledger. There is no application, license, or certificate filed for Evan Cole and any variant of Sloan in the past 30 days, she said. Mr. Derek Kemp, your texts with private parties regarding courthouse logistics and notarization while using your office title, present a conflict of interest. Your commission is suspended pending review. Derek tried the smile he uses for counters and windows. It didn't open anything. He surrendered his badge like a man handing over a library card he'd written his own name on. On the way out, he looked smaller. Predators don't vanish in sunlight, they shrink. A phone conference. 3 women's voices and a checklist. We've opened a matter, they said. The practice of channeling household income into a single-member LLC controlled by one party, without ownership by both, will be included in guidance updates. In English, a memo is coming that will make this harder for the next nice man. Between meetings, Evan sat in my passenger seat, quiet the way people are when they're learning the weight of their own voice. He scrolled past photos of the last year. His smile, her shoulder, dinners, windows, sunsets, the way summers look on phones. He deleted none of them. You don't have to burn your past to light your way. At 4, Sloan asked to meet. Public place, I texted back. Witnesses. We chose a cafe with too much light. She came alone. No coat this time. No flourish. She looked like a person who discovered that the world has forms she hadn't accounted for. I loved him, she began. I stirred my tea. Then why the money first? Because money is the part one can control, she said. The honesty surprised us both. The story started as a story. It always does. Then bills. Then habits. Then Nora said there's a way to make things smoother, and I like smoother. What's your real name? I asked softly. She showed me her license again, palms up. Sloane Lee, and I didn't lie, she said. I styled. Styling isn't spelling, I said. It's camouflage. She put her hands flat on the table. I can fix this. I can call Nora. I can say it was a misunderstanding. We can. Evan looked at her like a man reading the last line of a book and deciding whether to turn it into a pillow or a doorstop. We are done, he said. Not cruel. Done is a kind of mercy if you stop before it rots. If there was a marriage, we would build guardrails and try. There isn't. There are phases, and I'm not a phase. She swallowed. Tears stood there undecided. I was good to you, she said. You were, he said. And then you were good to the plan. She took the silence we gave her and left it on the table like a tip. On her way out, she paused by me. You win, she said. No, I said. Paper won. It always does, eventually. Start using it for yourself. That night roast. 2 plates. 1 chair empty on purpose. We didn't toast. We ate. We filled the dishwasher. We put the red folder on the counter and the freezes in a labeled sleeve. We wrote a short email to Nina. Retainer attached, W-9 attached, thank you attached. She replied with a photo of a text she'd sent her mother. Dinner this weekend? I liked that one with all my heart. Before bed, I opened the drawer where the handkerchief lay, white, stitched with the date of nothing. I did not throw it away. I ironed it. I put it back. Futures change, but fabric is patient. A week later, a letter arrived from First Federal. Corporate stationery. Phrases like regrettable deviation, internal controls, employee separation. A check, small enough to be symbolic, large enough to prove we weren't imagining. The state regulator sent a case number. The city clerk sent a notice. Kemp, commission revoked, referred to Inspector General. Hartford House emailed a training bulletin with my favorite sentence in it. Do not accept household as a business purpose if the account owner is a single-member LLC. Evan changed his direct deposit back to an account with only his name. He sent HR a new password request from his phone while I watched. He added 2FA. He set alerts that make little bells happen for withdrawals over $200. He unfollowed Sloane on the pretty apps. He called later to tell her he was blocking her number after their last conversation, and did it gently while on speaker with me and Marla, witnesses even there. On a Sunday, he showed up with a dog he was just fostering. She ate a sock and fell asleep with her mouth open like a muppet. We named her June for the month. This story could have ended differently and didn't. People asked me later how I knew what to do. I didn't. I knew how to assign roles. Front desk, witness. Security, frame. Compliance, memory. Counsel, spine. Son, voice. Mother, daylight. There's a thing people say, love is not a show. True. But families are witnesses, and papers are promises, and sunlight is a policy if you learn where the switches are. Yesterday was an empty courtroom. Today, every seat had someone in it. And when I count backwards now, I rarely get to 7.